back. It's Wednesday, December 14th. I'm Adam Ruffner, and I'm joined as always by Daniel Cohen, and this is Swing Pass. We're going to get right into it today. We're talking about way too early predictions for the 2023 AUDL season. With the 2022 year winding down, it feels only right to cast way into the future and make some wildly untethered predictions about the upcoming season. So let's get right into it. We've got kind of 5 topics to go over. We've got MVP, 2023 champion, most improved player, a new playoff team that will make the fold, and we'll be giving our championship weekend picks for 2023 as well. So I'll get right into it. We'll start with MVP, and I'm going to go actually with a throwback. It won't be either last year's MVP or the season 2 prior. It will be the 2018 MVP, Rowan McDonald, winning his second MVP in 2023. Now, this is going to kind of be like a two-parter answer, and it'll come up next with my 2023 championship pick without giving too much away. But I just think Rowan had such an impressive season in 2022. I think DC is still on the rise heading into 2023. You could just see how dynamic that Breeze offense is when they have their number one runner initiating it, either in the backfield or upfield as a thrower or as a receiver. He's just such a dynamic player. You touched on it in your article this week, breaking down the different kinds of hybrid position types. Rowan is just such a true hybrid in any sense of the word. You know, he can perform in almost any circumstance. And I just think with the Breeze, again, kind of trending upward, I think, heading into the future, I think he's going to have a huge 2023 season.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. I mean, if the Breeze live up to your expectations for them, which again, not giving too much away, you'll get to your pick later on, then of course I could see Rowan coming out as a repeat MVP. We've never had that before, though. We've never had an MVP one year. We've had back-to-back MVPs. We've never had a guy win it and then have a couple years not winning it. Right, we've had several back-to-back. That's old news. But yeah, this would be a first for a guy to win it like once and then a few years later win it again. I think we're going to add another guy to the repeat back-to-back MVP category of AUDL players, and I think Oscar is going to win it again. Assuming Ben Yacht stays on D-line, honestly, I just think the featured piece on the New York Empire is always going to be in the best position to win MVP in this current Empire dynasty world that we're living in. This is the best offense in AUDL history. They up their ceiling every single year, and I just feel like whoever is at the heart of that, and it was very much Oscar, is going to be in position to win it. Like, he has the best supporting cast in the league. It's nothing to take away from the other pieces, but he is what makes that offense go and why they have so much scoring potential. It's his role that he plays. It's his skill set as both a thrower and receiver. So I'm going to take Oscar to repeat in 2023.
And I just want to say, I didn't come by this decision lightly at all, as you can see from the amount of times I crossed stuff out on my preparation for this episode. And I kind of want to walk through a little bit of, I was almost going to choose Jordan Kerr for MVP in 2023, but I thought about it, and it was like, you know, after the insane 2022 season that he just had, 90 assists, 31 goals, completed 85% of his hucks, had 6,500 total yards, led Salt Lake all the way to the West Division Championship game, had his best game of the season in the West Division Championship game. After that, how does he build on that? He would have to bring that shred team to championship weekend, and I just don't quite see that happening in 2023. So with all due respect to Kerr, and I'm sure the incredible 2023 season he is about to unleash on the league, for right now, my pick is going to be Rowan McDonald for 2023 MVP. But you should move along and pick your 2023 champion. I've kind of already hinted at mine, but...
Well, yeah, I may or may not have hinted at mine already as well. It's New York. I just think these are the New York years. I know they didn't win the championship. It is boring. It's boring, but it's my way too early prediction. We'll see as the offseason progresses. But not only are they like the most talented team in the league, I think by a pretty wide margin at this point, they seem to add more and more pieces every single year. And we're seeing that reflected in their efficiency numbers every year. So it's like, not only are they at the top of their game, they are still ascending in my mind. So I think they're still borderline untouchable. As close as that playoff game was last year against DC, they still just have this empire magic for those late game situations. They have a guy called Jack Williams who's decent at the sport. So I just don't see them going anywhere. I don't know if they'll for sure go undefeated again. I'd probably say they're due for a loss, but I do see them winning another championship.
I don't think your pick is wrong in any facet of the word. I think you're absolutely right.
You.
New York seems to be moving into 2023 with the most talent in the league. I think that's kind of undeniable at this point. And to your point that they keep adding more, those John Randolph, Jabron
They're greedy.
mid-season pickups.
They're hoarding these stars
to add, just mid-season all-stars. But I will say, and this is more so a question than anything else, so New York fans just pump the brakes on this. I wonder how much longer the ambition can hold out, right? New York has now appeared in 3 straight championship games. They've had 2 perfect seasons in the last 3. They were unquestionably the best team in the league throughout 2022. Is there any sense that there's just a little bit of a give up? Not even in any individual facet or because they lack, I think, a competitor's desire. That's clearly not been true. But is there maybe the sense that they just slack off enough where a team like DC, who just keeps banging on that door year after year, that they finally break through? And that moves into my pick for the 2023 champion, which is New York's arch nemesis, the DC Breeze. I think that DC has been so close for so long. They have so much talent. They're so well coached. And I just think at a certain point, those ambitions kind of flip it, eventually. I don't know if that will necessarily be 2023 because, like you say, New York seems to be moving forward with all the talent in the world. But I do think that you see DC's drive more and more apparent, more and more visible, more and more frustrating, I think, on a game-by-game basis. And there's a lot of rumors swirling around about some pretty major additions DC could be picking up heading into the new year as well. And I just think that with sort of increased tension, mounting rivalry drama, there's just got to be a give point for a team and a franchise as good as DC. So they're going to be my 2023 championship pick, but just continuing to move right along into our way, way, way too early predictions for 2023.
Well, hold on, real quick. I don't think, I just want to comment on the last thing you said. I don't think like New York's ambition is going to go down necessarily, but I could see DC passing them. I still think New York is like so intrinsically motivated. Like their coaches drive hours to every practice, to every game. Their buy-in throughout that franchise is so apparent, and I think there might be something to a little bit extra motivator of being the first team to ever win 3 championships this year. But I do get what you're saying. I think DC, having never been to championship weekend, right? Like they are always going to have a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder than New York, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's such 2 to 3 year cycles with the talent in this league that New York is starting to hit a little bit of that just epical churn that happens within the AUDL, but
sure,
they're obviously a franchise that could push back.
I think we're still in it. Yeah,
norms.
I think we're still in New York's world.
And just, they've had such good, I think, luck with their conditioning and their health throughout the years. You start to wonder how many years can you really keep stacking that up back to back to back. And maybe New York is teaching us all that this is a new way. This is something different than before. So that remains to be seen. But moving into most improved player, I'm going to go with Keenan Lawrence from the Oakland Spiders. Now, I don't think that he had a bad season at all in 2022. He had above 20 assists, 20 goals, for, I think, a very turnover heavy Spiders roster. And I think that Oakland is very much still in that space of trying to figure itself out. Speaking of two-time AUDL champion franchises, but I think after being hampered by some injuries this year and just kind of figuring out where his role is exactly in this Oakland offense, I expect Lawrence to have a big 2023 season. I could definitely see him putting up something similar to what 2022 most improved player James Pollard had, where it's just a lot of looks at the end zone as both a thrower and a receiver, and just bringing a lot of energy and high octane, I think, playmaking to that Spires offense.
I like it. So the way I'm looking at this most improved player award, we've had just two prior examples, right? Like we started this award in 2021. AJ Merriman won that year, followed by James Pollard winning it in 2022. Both examples, you have like a pretty big D-line defender type that makes significant improvements to their offensive game. So I'm going to take this formula and apply it to my 2023 pick, which is Phil Turner of the Toronto Rush. We saw Turner playing a little bit more offense this past season. He set career highs in, I think, assists, goals, completions. Like he was pretty involved on offense. He played over 100 O points. Still definitely played the majority on defense. But I think there's also that need in Toronto right now to gravitate towards your best players and just keep them on the field as much as possible. I also think maybe they get a little bit of an influx of talent from Ottawa folding. If you can kind of raise the ceiling of the team, I think that just helps each star shine a little brighter. I'm also just I know Toner had that article about offensive guys shifting over to defense and like making huge impacts there. I'm kind of the mindset that the other way around might be better for teams. I still think offense is king, as you pointed out in your article released today. The best offensive teams are the ones that are consistently at championship weekend, winning championships. And I think the more talent and like bigs, especially, that you can have on that offensive side, I think you're just going to be better off that way. So I think it's going to be another big defender that maybe just shifts a little bit more to offense in 2023. So I like Phil Turner for that pick.
Now, you're kind of omitting the headline for Phil Turner, which is that he just led the league this season in blocks. So how is he going
to... Well,
to
his defensive prowess is
from the defensive position. But I think you make a good point.
Sure.
If he is employed a little bit more on offense, if Toronto finds, I think, a little bit more early season success, and they start utilizing him in some more positional play. I think you saw that a few times throughout the season, but was relatively diminished because Toronto started, I think, 0-5. It was kind of a slippery start,
not a great
for the
year.
young Rush.
But right, the improvement would come in the offensive category within his game. Obviously, he's a fantastic defender. I just don't see a ton of improvement as a defender. But yes, great player, great season.
It's hard to improve on leading the league in takeaways. Like
it is.
That's a pretty high bar. It's a pretty high bar. But moving right along to a new playoff team for 2023. Now, I think the low-hanging fruit right now is Atlanta because of the addition of the Houston Havoc for the 2023 season to South Division and ostensibly adding a third playoff spot to that division after only having 2 playoff spots this past season. I think that kind of gives the easiest edge to an Atlanta team that has shown itself to be a playoff contender the past few seasons. But if it reduces back, if it stays at its 2 playoff seed format, then I think that becomes a little bit more of a dicey issue because as Austin showed this last year, they are a playoff team and they intend on staying that way. It's a very young franchise, a very developing franchise. I had them listed as one of the top 6 offenses this past season. I think that they acquitted themselves numerous times of that throughout the course of their 2022 campaign. I'm getting really rambly right now, but I think that Atlanta still has probably the best shot at regaining a playoff spot in 2023. But I'm excited to hear who you chose.
Yeah, I think the playoff picture, the playoff structure in the South Division would stay at 2 teams because it was basically Houston's replacing Tampa essentially this year. So I think still with 5 teams, you'd probably stick with 2, but the league has done some shifting just year to year, regardless of numbers. So I like Austin too much to pick Atlanta, and so I think Madison makes more sense to me as getting the 3rd spot in the Central Division with these aforementioned rumors of guys potentially going to DC. Those guys are presumably coming from Minnesota. These are the rumors, at least. We're not saying names, but we think Minnesota is going to take a slight hit talent-wise. We think Chicago is going to take a slight hit talent-wise because it's, again, rumored that Pavel might not be returning to the Chicago Union in 2023. So there are just a few question marks kind of floating around that Central Division. Whereas Madison, they lost Kai Marcus very early last season. I think if he comes back and plays well early on, like, they can get off to another good start. I think the biggest thing for them has just been consistency, and especially consistency on the offensive side. And if they just have a few more of those playmakers in place, I could see them doing enough to compete at the top of that division more consistently. They were very close to the playoff spot this past year too. What?
Indy was missing some pretty good players this past season, and they still took that third playoff spot.
Indy's my dark horse to win the Central this year.
Okay,
but we won't get into that. This is about Madison. I think Madison was super close to the playoffs.
Of Indy would like a few.
I know. I think Indy's clearly going to be better than last year. I think Chicago and Minnesota are going to be a little worse, and I think Madison might be around the same. So Central Division, as always, is going to be super exciting and interesting.
Now, you know that I am aboard the Austin Soul hype train as much as you. We had an episode 2 weeks prior about the Soul re-signing their trio of offensive stars for 2023. All signs are pointing up for the Soul. It took almost a historic 4th quarter comeback at home against Atlanta, playing on the second night of a back-to-back in midsummer Texas heat, the hustle were, for the Soul to overcome Atlanta and make this year's playoffs. Do you think a team and a franchise as good as Atlanta kind of makes the same mistakes that they did this year with some of their rotation choices, with some of the I think selections of talent over maybe consistency, over sort of developed consistency within the organization? It felt like a little bit that Atlanta sold out this past season. There was a whole bunch of talk before 2022 about how this was the most talented hustle team ever. But I think as we saw in some of their tribulations against the other playoff teams in the South Division, that talent came at the cost of a little bit of chemistry and I think execution in tight situations. Do you think that same problem befuddles the hustle going into 2023? Do you think Austin continues to kind of out-execute the hustle in tight situations? Or do you think Atlanta regains their sort of, I think, preconceived idea that Atlanta Ultimate has a little bit of a higher mark than Austin?
Yeah, Atlanta had a weird year. I'm going to answer the question with I trust Austin more at this point. I trust what they've been building. I think they're going to be a better team this year than they were last year. And with Atlanta, sure, maybe they return more to the form that we saw from them in 2021, but they were so scattered this past season. It just feels like too, I don't know. I just don't want to trust them yet. I kind of have to see it in action again. When they played Austin in Atlanta, that was Atlanta like firing on all cylinders. You saw what the ceiling of that team could be. And I remember at that point, I was like, oh man, like this is going to be a dangerous team this year. Cause I think that was relatively early, maybe like week 5 or something. But we never saw it again the rest of the season. So I'm kind of waiting to see that Atlanta form again and see it like a couple weeks in a row, ideally, before I shift my trust more towards Atlanta. But I'm rolling with Austin right now. I just like the fact they're improving their win totals every year. They're kind of building around their core. They have this very developed system and a great head coach. Not that Atlanta has a bad one, but you get what I mean. Anyway, Team Austin over Team Atlanta right now.
I bring it up to illustrate the larger point of how quickly our notions of these teams reverse, right? Like 2021 ended with Atlanta almost knocking off the Empire. Now we sit here at the end of 2022 talking about how the Empire might be continuing on this dynasty and how Austin might have leapfrogged Atlanta. There's just, I think, so much uncertainty going into
we know nothing
seasons. I can't wait to play this back in about like 8 weeks after like tryouts and find out I'm totally wrong.
Yeah, I always say stuff like that, and I'm never gonna play this back because I know we're just gonna be way off, and it would just be demoralizing. But whatever, our opinions are allowed to be all over the place.
Getting into the most demoralizing part, then let's settle on our championship weekend picks for 2023. I'll let you go first. I'm just gonna rattle mine off real quick. I'm not gonna appraise them too much, but.
Okay, same. I'll do the same. Let's keep the Austin hype train rolling, and we're sending Austin over Carolina from the South. Repeat teams are going to be Colorado and New York, and then we're going to go with Minnesota, hosting championship weekend in Minnesota. That's going to be enough motivation for them to finally get to their first championship weekend.
All right. I'll go with Colorado and Carolina are my returners from the West and South, respectively. I've got DC finally breaking through in the East Division, and they're going to win the championship, as I talked about before. And then I also have Minnesota, making it as the host franchise to 2023 championship weekend, but I don't think that they will make it to a championship game. I think, as you were saying earlier, it's going to be a bit of a down year for the Central Division, although we said that this past year, and I feel like that turned out to be...
We never know.
Yeah.
We never know.
Right.
I hope that we wished Minnesota making championship weekend into existence right there, because I feel like there's nothing better than when the home team is actually present and competing at their own championship weekend. So that's the one I care most about of those 4 predictions.
Right on. The reverse jinx.
Yes.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of Swing Pass. We'll see you next week. And we don't know. We never know. We don't know.
No one knows.